If misogyny was a game, its name would be Matsurika no Ke. This game has one of the most misogynist setups and characters I've ever seen in any game. Even worse than some kinky erotic games where women get robbed for the sake of baby making. And I really wonder who came up with this concept and thought this game could tell a sweet love story for girls. In this romance fantasy game, you play as Naya, who was born with magical powers in a secluded village, but quickly ends up having to marry off in order to be protected by a strong man and survive this harsh mythological world. I get that some games would choose such a setup in order to shock you or make you think, but I honestly don't think that's happening here. I can appreciate a deliberately kinky or abusive setup, be it spanking demons or being tormented by hot sadistic vampires. But Matsurika no Ke is different. The world of Matsurika no Ke revolves about women being only there for the sake of baby making. Nothing else. It's the single most important duty of every woman. Come of age to make as many babies as quickly as possible. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Let me break down why Matsurika no Ke is especially problematic. But of course the disclaimer, I'm giving my personal opinion here. You are entitled to like and enjoy the game. I believe fiction and fantasies are free, but I'm just stating reasons why the setup could be described as misogynist. But whether you enjoy this or not is a totally different question, and up to each player to decide. What makes the setup of this game so especially misogynist? The game is set in a historical fantasy setting with a lot of mythological aspects. So far, so good. Our heroine was raised in a secluded village that is protected by a god that loathes fire. That is why they have to perform rites, so they can keep the holy fire burning and continue living. Our heroine is blessed with a special power to bring forth this fire. Harsh setting, but no misogyny here, so far. Until you learn that the village, like apparently any other tribe on this beautiful Chinese world, needs to survive. And how do you survive as a tribe? Of course by making babies. Who is important for baby making? Women. And now each tribe decides that their most important priority is to survive and to make cute little tribe babies. And for that it's necessary to raise all women with the belief that it's their most important single duty to make babies. That is the single role of all women. Don't mind our heroine's magical eye. Don't mind the good deeds she's been doing for the village. She's a girl who comes of age and thus needs to be married as quickly as possible and make as many babies as possible. And of course our heroine would be willing to accept any second best offer she gets. So glad she has a friend who gives her some kind of traditional liquor of the village. The woman is supposed to use in the first night to make it less painful. That as well is a very important holy duty of women. Do you already see where this is going? And this is still just the beginning of the game. I don't think you can fully fathom it yet. Let me elaborate what happens in the roots. So if you want to experience the game yourself, better click away now. We're entering full spoiler territory now. Now as the game begins, the heroine comes of age and has to marry to make babies. But who to marry? Doesn't really matter, some guy who offers himself. The selection of bachelors the game offers are a random flirty insincere merchant scumbag, a random stranger from the streets, random stranger's servant, random dude who visits and wants to claim her as his wife, and childhood friend. A lot of random people and one actual friend to choose from. Lucky her. I wish I had such a carefully chosen selection of husbands to choose from. And if that wasn't funny enough, the game comes up with even more funny moves. After spending hours on elaborating on the village's lore, the fire-loathing god, the heroine's special power, in the common route the village gets attacked, burns down, and the heroine exiled. All that was for nothing. Now she's forced to join hands with one of the allies to rescue this poor little girl who can do nothing on her own, which is sadly true, as the village is so secluded that she knows literally nothing of the outside world and would indeed not be able to survive without the help of a strong man. So thank God there are strong men to rescue her and explain to this girl how the world works. The first to do so is the random merchant Luo. He takes pity on her and even gives her a place to work so she can make a living for herself. Happy end. Sadly not. Because girls shouldn't work. They should be married. So why not sell her off without asking or consulting her? Because strong man knows best what is good for little girl. And then rescue her out of the life trap he set up himself. No, she actually needed to be rescued by another strong man. Lucky her. There are so many strong men to rescue her. No wonder she can't help but fall in love with a deceptive liar. And they live happily ever after. Next time around, little girl is rescued by a gentleman, starting out promising, who turns out to be the prince of this country. Really strong, powerful man to protect little girl this time around. Problem is, that current strong king also thinks she's a cute little girl with a magical voice, so she has to sing while the king is trying to make babies with his wives. Because also for this kingdom, babies are very important. Somehow that isn't quite working though, so maybe he should just try making babies with little girl instead. But no strong powerful man can't allow that, so the only way to protect her from other strong men's hands is to marry her. And because they are married now, they of course also have to fulfill their duties as a married couple. As if anyone would ever find out. But they are dutiful people. Those strong men of course feel sorry for her for losing what should be most important to any little girl, her first night. Luckily they fall in love afterwards and become the new king and queen. Happy end. Big strong wolf guy coming to rescue her doesn't sound any more promising. Within one day they are married. Though he says he worries about her and respects her feelings, they still of course have to perform their duties as a married couple, no matter what. And as he's a dog, there's only one way for him of course. And he's also so manly that she can't walk for days afterwards. Luckily, over time they fall in love with each other and find other ways to make love. Happy end. The strong servant of powerful prince. He's also very strong and able to disguise little girl as a man so she can start working for him as an assistant in the castle. He also needs to show her to be scared of other strong men in general, because little girl doesn't know. Of course, other strong man finds out and wants to make babies with her, but strong man servant protects little girl. But then some magical plot happens and they want to make love all the time because of magic. Luckily, they also fall in love afterwards and live happily ever after. Finally, little girl gets to marry a guy she actually knows and who likes and respects her. Wonderful! He nicely protects her from other strong men trying to make babies with her against her will, and they could kind of be happy. Until he dies in the first chapter of his own route. Luckily, he was only the reincarnation of a fairy who was in love with a girl. Little girl is now the reincarnation of. Potentially. So little girl can just make love with the fairy instead, who her husband was the reincarnation of. It makes no difference, does it? Not quite. Very strong man knows best what is good for little girl and embraces her memories. So in the happy end, she thinks very strong man is her human husband and doesn't know she's making babies with another person. So they can live happily ever after. What are the three aspects I find the most problematic? First, women as a victim. There's one route the heroine spends being abducted by one man after another and practically stays tied up the whole route. Also in other routes she merely takes the stance of a spectator, but rarely takes action herself, but is led by the men through her life. She completely lacks any agency in her life. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a good abduction plot like in Pure Fjorde, but feel that Lily, for example, was more active in trying to make the best out of a situation. While Naya, grown up in a secluded village, she's robbed of any knowledge and common sense, and just has no chance but to wait for a man to rescue her. Second, a man knows best what is good for little girl. This is strongly linked to the first aspect, the heroine having no agency. All the time it's the men deciding what is good for her over her head. In duels and face route, the allies make life-changing decisions without letting her even know. Third, women as baby-making machines. For every tribe, their survival is the most important. And all women are raised with this mindset, including our heroine Naya. She even can become desperate at times, when she's not able to bear babies, quickly and perfectly. And what is even worse, that every single character in this beautiful Chinese world has the exact same worldview, including the allies. And this makes the setup really so difficult to bear for me. If it was a conservative setup, but the heroine and all the allies realize the flaws in the society, it would leave a whole different impression on me than when this world is just accepted as it is and stays like this until the credits roll, with no one even thinking, maybe women could be capable of more than just making babies. These three aspects, the woman as a victim who needs a man to decide about her life and who's mostly good for baby making, make this game setup so misogynist. And make me wonder who thought this would be a good setup for a romantic dating game for girls. Because also the romance is very different to my personal romance ideal. In my ideal, you get to know each other, form an emotional connection, fall in love, and in the end also form a physical connection. But Matsurika no Kei just turns this process around. You first have a physical connection without any emotions involved, and suddenly fall in love afterwards, without really knowing each other, because the allies rarely bother to ask Naya anything about herself or her life. It's all about the men. The man's trauma, the man's life, the man's goals, the man's actions. Who would care about the little girl who suddenly lost her home? She's only a woman and has to make babies. No need to get emotional over her tragic past. I get more emotional about my Patreon support. Thank you so much. And if you also want early access to my videos, updates on the games I play, or Japanese learning streams, feel free to also become a patron. Or if you buy your games on Amazon Japan, please feel free to use my affiliate links to support my channel without any additional cost. That all being said, just because I don't enjoy the love progression in this game, or this kind of setup, doesn't mean you won't enjoy it. I think this game might be interesting for people who enjoy a mythological plot. I feel this plot-driven game was very much written around the locked route, and is an impressive example of how each route reveals bits and pieces of the overall truth, until everything comes together in the locked route. If you like plot, mythology, and unraveling mysteries, there's certainly a lot of enjoyment to be had from this game. But if and why using misogynist stereotypes could be problematic, and what consequences it might have playing such games, I analyze in this video, and I'm also looking forward to hearing your take on Matsurika no Kei or games with, let's say, unusual setups.